A little over 120 years ago, an elusive and radically advanced culture of genetic manipulators gifted a small megacorporation with the blueprint for a piece of technology that was to radically change the course of history. For a small group of select individuals, those with the rare physical and mental characteristics required to survive the transition into post-humanism, this technology would provide the gateway to power and riches beyond their wildest dreams. Though it is known by most as simply the pod, or the capsule, the device's full name is the hydrostatic capsule, and the pilot encased within its armor shell is known as a capsuleer. Cloning and the hydrostatic capsule are the two cornerstones of the capsuleer class, and as such represent arguably the two most important and influential technologies in New Eden. Clones, as used by capsuleers, can easily be considered the pinnacle of achievement in the allied sciences of cellular biology, molecular biology, and nanotechnology, and the capsule has all but revolutionized the starship field, outperforming any other method of vessel command by a wide margin. But it wasn't always so. When capsule technology was first made available, researchers and technicians soon discovered that despite the enormous advantages, capsule interfaces were extraordinarily difficult to use and posed a great deal of danger to those who attempted to do so, not least due to the myriad genetic differences between natural humans and their genetically engineered benefactors. For decades, horror stories of the capsule circulated, creating a pernicious stigma around the technology. No financial or commercial institute was willing to invest the funding required to change the public perception that the capsule was essentially as effective as a highly sophisticated liquid-filled coffin. Cloning, similarly, had not established much of a foothold until the last few decades. Not only was the process unreliable, but the very concept of cloning was also fiercely demonized by religious groups all over the universe for its perceived denial of the human soul. Prohibitively expensive and morally questionable, cloning was the domain of the dying rich. Even today, with cloning somewhat more commonly accepted, if not necessarily well regarded, stories persist of people blurring the lines of personhood and identity even further by cloning themselves into completely different bodies, across the gender and race gaps. It is not known precisely when research into the principle of bringing together the capsule and the clone was conceived, nor when the capsule's technology was dusted off to be assessed for potential compatibility. However, several years ago, in early YC-104, a breakthrough was made that changed the face of spaceflight forever. After years of dedicated research into the workings of the human mind and its electrochemical processes, the first transneural burn scanner interface was successfully integrated, installed, and tested in a newly constructed first-generation prototype capsule. The burning scanner works by taking a full and accurate snapshot of the entire mind-brain state of human subjects, which can then be transmitted nearly instantaneously to a new clone, essentially allowing the subject to maintain the thread of consciousness through the death of the old body and into the new one. Cheating death. The operation must be correctly timed, however, with a margin of error rarely exceeding a few nanoseconds. This is because the process of scanning is extremely disruptive of the brain's delicate structures, essentially destroying the very brain it records. The burning scanner raises the very problem of full mind-body cloning that the capsule solves. Since the scanner and its support systems are housed in a bank of equipment which requires close and stable proximity to the brain, it is in no way possible to wear the technology on one's person. Mounting the equipment in vehicles and even flight decks is problematic as well, since the scanner needs to fire within a precise window of time, right at the subject's death. False stimuli, momentary separation from the equipment, or accidents that can take place in unsealed environments are all problems that can cause misfiring of the scanner. Firing too early can cause grave psychological problems or even corrupted scans, as certain brain region activity disrupts the proper functioning of the scan. Firing too late similarly has its problems. Scanning a brain that is too far in the process of dying will result in a mind state record that is essentially brain damaged. At worst, it will result in an inert mind reduced to nothing more than autonomic functionality. The hydrostatic capsule provides a nearly ideal solution to the problems posed by the transneural burning scanner. In the first place, it is a sealed environment with a very clear set of tolerances and breach parameters. If the capsule breaches without the proper authorizations, the system assumes a catastrophic situation and instantly administers a nanotoxin that produces a reliable death process in the pilot. The burning scanner can therefore safely operate within the precise window required. Moreover, the scanner can and has been successfully integrated into capsule systems to take advantage of its power, data storage, and faster-than-light communications capabilities. Following the success of the capsule clone integration tests, the decision was made to license qualified individuals as independent capsule pilots with associated clone contracts and access to capsule technology. The capsuleers, beneficiaries of the union of two remarkable and intersecting complexes of technology, had emerged. There followed a great boom in space technology and industry, rapid expansion of cloning facilities, and a large program of faster-than-light communications via the New Eden Stargate network was developed as the empires vied with one another to support and attract this new class of spacefaring immortal. From the outside moving in, the capsule is a complex and highly strung web of technologies that bond together to protect and seal off the pilot from the elements, while still providing full awareness and neural control over the vessel. The external hull of the capsule is constructed from a 100mm pyramid carbon fiber impregnated variation of the titanium diborite armor plating used in most Caldari-derived starship hulls. While formidable on its own, the addition of a strong fiber weave to the structure of the armor gives it a ballistic stopping power almost 10 times greater than that of the standard diborite armor of the same thickness. This enables the thickness of the armor used on the external hull to be vastly reduced to save on mass, increasing the capsule's inertia rating and maneuverability to aid in its use as a means of escape for the pilot. Beneath the outer armor, behind a 200mm expansion gap which is exposed to vacuum, lies the internal pressure-sealed hull of the capsule itself, known more commonly as the Stage 2 hull. It comprises two interleaved 100mm thick layers of tungsten carbide armor to provide structural rigidity. The external hull is rigidly connected to the Stage 2 via a collapsible shock dampening assembly at the center of each armor plate, which acts as a buffer to soften the stress of external impacts. The Stage 2 hull is pressure sealed, providing the barrier between the environment outside and the controlled internal environment of the capsule. Inside the Stage 2 hull, a second air gap of 300mm lies between the inner surface of the Stage 2 hull and the outer side of the silicate reinforced polycarbonate glass suspension chamber, inside which rests the capsuleer. This 300mm air gap protects the suspension chamber, which is attached to the Stage 2 hull at the crown or top and foot or bottom of the capsule in a pair of dampened retaining assemblies to prevent lateral movement of the suspension chamber. The same system as between the Stage 2 and external hull is used in a ring around the chamber at the capsule's widest point. The air gap between the chamber and the Stage 2 hull is pressurized to atmospheric standard pressure. This air gap is monitored constantly during the capsule's operation and provides the trigger for the initiation of the transneural echo burn scanner system if the hull is breached or other factors cause an internal pressure deviation. Protection of the suspension chamber is paramount, as within this lies the most valuable cargo that a starship has ever carried, the capsuleer, immersed in an oxygen-rich, nanosaturated, breathable, fluorocarbon-derived suspension solution. The chamber itself is of no spectacular construction to behold. A convex egg-like silicate glass bubble with a single 950mm wide circular port at its base for access and egress, and two smaller 150mm ports at either side of its crown within the retaining assembly for the circulation of suspension fluid when the capsule is in service with the vessel. Within the chamber, the capsuleer is immersed in the amber-colored, low-viscosity, breathable suspension solution, also pressurized to an atmospheric standard. The capsuleer's lungs are flooded with this fluid on immersion, allowing the pilot to breathe liquid for the duration of the flight, with the solution's bio-nanite-rich composition acting as a carbon dioxide scrubber. The liquid suspension helps in further cushioning the capsuleer from the rigors of faster-than-light travel and external impact, stabilizing lung and body pressure in space, as well as being rich in nutrients and the antibacterial nanite compounds that assist in maintaining hygiene and a sterile environment for the pilot. Pod pilot candidates are a rare breed, Only 14% of all those who apply are able to make it past pre-screening into basic training, and only around 5% of those manage to make it through the entire program and go on to become capsuleers. Prospective candidates must satisfy a broad range of criteria, including but not limited to 20/20 vision, perfect hearing, blood pressure within a highly limited range, peak physical conditioning, a complete genome profile that excludes any possibility of genetic defects or hereditary disease, 98th percentile intelligence, a degree in a sufficiently advanced technical field, and, provided no grants or scholarships are in the picture, an enormous amount of money. Above all, the candidate must possess an ability to keep his or her mind working along several different tracks at once, giving full attention to all of them simultaneously. Once past pre-screening, a candidate is given a thorough grounding in capsule and cloning technology, as well as the specifics of what sets a capsule-fitted starship apart from a traditional bridge command vessel. He learns how to manage crews on varying sizes of ship, how to conduct basic maintenance, and myriad other tricks of the trade. The length of this book learning phase varies between schools, though it is never less than 1 full year and very seldom more than 2. The period culminates in a 6-hour-long oral exam, during which the candidate's depth of knowledge is assessed, as well as his ability to think on his feet and respond to unexpected sets of variables. Regardless of how well a candidate has been doing up until this point, if he does not convince his instructor beyond the shadow of a doubt that his knowledge is bulletproof, he will be failed out of the program and sent home. Once the initial academic phase is over, a 2-year period of grueling physical orientation begins. After being fitted with the requisite implants for capsule interfacing, and provided their bodies don't outright reject the implants, prospects are subjected to days upon end of deprivation tanks, zero-G environments, and shock simulations intended to acclimate the body and mind to the rigors of travel through warp tunnels and wormholes. This, by far, is the training phase where the largest portion of candidates fail out of the program. Most of the ones that do simply cannot tolerate the constant barrage of physical pain and conditioning, interspersed with interminable periods of sensory deprivation. About to lose their sanity or patience, or both, they sign their own termination slips. Some refuse to give up, but are not rewarded for their persistence. This phase of training has the highest mortality rate of the entire program. Exact numbers are not available, but it is estimated that roughly 1/10 of all candidates lose their lives at some point in this phase. For the few who manage to make it through orientation, the learning can begin in earnest. The last 2 years of the program are devoted exclusively to developing the skills needed to be an effective pilot, including hardpoint configuration, warp mechanics, shield system operation, signature analysis, astrometrics, and a host of associated skills. For the first of these 2 years, candidates will fly solely in simulations. For the second year, they are finally allowed to fly their first capsule-fitted frigates. Once a candidate makes it through the entire 5 years of mental and physical hardship and exertion, he is ready to face the final test. In order to gain his certification and become a full-fledged capsuleer, he must submit to voluntary euthanasia, give up the body he was born in, and clone into a new version of himself, for the first time coming squarely face to face with death. Despite the prodigious investment of time and energy the preceding years have demanded, it's surprising to note how many candidates cannot make this final step, foregoing all they've learned because they cannot bear to cross the Rubicon into post-humanity. For the others, their journey is just beginning.